So just reaching up and down. And then up and out. And just forming loose fists and turning. And then opening the hands. And now turning the head, but using the eyes. So looking down the arm into the palm and then through the fingers and extending into the distance. And then pull the eyes back, like the eyes are tracing a line of energy across your shoulders around the back, down the other arm and out. So you're just tracing this line that goes through your arms and behind your head. Clasping the hands behind the back. And pulling the head back, so looking up, and then just make circles, changing direction each time we get to the top. And then crossing the arms on the spine, so holding the elbows, and then leaning forwards. And then again, so going all the way down if you can. Okay, let's try a little bit with the stick. Stick's a bit more vicious. And then let's bring it up behind the neck. And just some turning. then some tipping. And something heavy is rolling down the stick and something light is rolling up the stick. And now the one where we let that stick down and then back behind the head. And then holding the stick in the middle and pulling and pushing. So first pulling the hands apart. You've barely got any grip, so you can't pull too hard. And then pushing the hands towards each other. And pulling the hands apart. And then pushing them together. And then the stick down. And then the ones for the shoulders. So the arm across the body and the other arm pulling at the elbow to pull the arm in. Feel the stretch around this shoulder. So you can use the breathing. So as you breathe in, sort of push into the pressure, and as you breathe out, just release, and then the arm can pull the extending arm in a bit more. So you get more tense as you breathe in purposefully, so that you can then relax even more when you breathe out. And then release. And the other side. And now the one where we hold the hands. Again, just use the breathing. So as you breathe in, just push into the contact. And then as you breathe out, just relax. The best way to release chronic tension is to work it. See, and the other side. And then the one hand up the spine and the other hand over. And again, just work it. And then releasing. And then the moment of truth, the difficult side. And then releasing. Okay, and now let's reach forwards, but the way we did it last week, as you reach with one hand, let the other hand slip behind. So like the hand behind is trying to join the arm that's reaching out. I just very much want that sense that my circles and my figures of eights actually include me. They're not simply in front of me. They don't just include the other person. They join us together. So I'm at the back of the circle, the other person is the front of the circle. Now, just reaching up, so the same thing, but it's a bit like the one where we hold the hands behind the back we've just done. So like the hand is trying to go up that's behind you to join the arm that's reaching up. And now a few to the side. And then the strong twist, so just do another one of those. And then once you get as far around as you can, just drop the hand onto the knee and then just work your way around. Again, using the breathing. And then release slowly. And the other side. And then releasing back. And then and out again with the hands. And turning the head, but twisting the arms as well. And then gradually bring the arms in towards each other. The figures of eights will get bigger until there's a sense that you're just tracing one figure of eight with both hands. The figure of eight is scooping underneath your cushion and your legs and reaching over your head. And then let these figures of eight shrink until they're centered at the heart and contained in the chest. And we want the bottom of the figure of eight to contain us or some aspect of it. So here we feel it scooping into the armpits, if not behind the back. You can see it going under one armpit and then coming round and out under the other. It squeeze down into the belly and let it just open up again once it gets to the belly. Feel how different the mood is. Let it squeeze up again. And filling out the heart. So just a few more here. So the enemy of this work really is the two sides of you, your body or your mind, wanting to lock together in like an artificial sense of unity. And so a lot of what we do is just trying to get the two to split. And here's how that with the body, we know that, when one side of the body does the opposite of what the other side is doing, then we have movement and we have turning, which is what Tai Chi is all about. So we'd like that same quality in the mind. It's fluid, and then it can just start moving without having to be kick-started. And then let it squeeze up as though up the throat into the head, where again it fills out. And now the bottom of the gate looping into the jaw either side. Feel the center, the waist of the two figures of eights being that point in the brain between your eyes and in. So the pineal gland and then just gradually let them shrink. And then just forming prayer. So now the hands are separating the two eyes. So whatever you see to the right must be from your right eye. So you just pause here long enough to register the difference between them. Not difference in what you see, but difference in how each one makes you feel. And which is your lazy eye, which is your good eye, which is your bad eye. And then breathing this point, imagine it's expanding and then contracting. As the hands come in, it's like something is contracting, and as they move apart, something is expanding. And then just bring it down to the heart. And again, just breathing the heart now. To feel the pressure building up as you bring the hands in. So this should be the in-breath phase. And then just feel the pressure releasing as the breath comes out and the hands move apart. So as one phase completes, it naturally bounces into the next phase. And then the belly. You can really tighten the belly muscles. And then release. and into prayer. And now just down to here. So in meditation, they have those three states of mind. So quiet mind, empty mind, and no mind. The quiet mind just means, it's what we all achieve when we meditate, assuming you're not a complete beginner. So the mind gets quieter. Quiet doesn't mean silent. It's like you have quiet music. It just means the thoughts have subsided a little bit. An empty mind is meant to be when there's just no thoughts whatsoever, no mental activity. So you're just looking at mind in its pure state. And then no mind is, they say it's like when a sportsman gets in the zone and everything just flows and they just perform beyond themselves, or a performer on stage. So there's no mind getting in the way. You're just completely bound up in what you're doing and behaving spontaneously. You're quicker than mind. The way I think about it is, you're sitting down meditating. It's nighttime. It's quiet. It's in the dark, pretty much. So you're meditating. You're getting quieter inside. So the problem with quiet mind that the martial artists are aware of is that it tends to make you slow and sleepy, because when we quieten down, we associate that with sleep. So imagine you're sitting there gradually dozing off as you're meditating, and then suddenly you hear a sound and you're not sure what on earth it is, and you feel the hackles on the back of your neck standing up and your body bracing itself, and suddenly you have empty mind because there's nothing there. All your intent on is listening in order to hear what it was that made that sound. And then just imagine that something scurried into the room or whatever, something that alarmed you. And you just instantly, without thinking about it, just leapt to your feet in fright. So that would be no mind. You've just responded to the situation with no mind. And the mind hasn't interfered. Yeah. So though they say those last two states, empty mind and no mind, are like enlightened mind. And we all touch them. We all touch them occasionally. But empty mind and no mind are sort of associated with dangerous situations, the situations that we tend to avoid to our detriment, which is why people just don't have spirit nowadays. Civilization is the death of spirit, really. So safety, which is why so many people sort of yearn for dangerous situations and watch it. They watch ridiculously violent movies. So everything, all these aspects are vicarious now. Yeah. Okay, now let's try the peripheral vision. So just bring one hand up so it's at the top of your peripheral vision and the other hand at the bottom. So just fix your eyes on a point so that this bottom hand is just within your vision. And then slowly moving them round the rim of your peripheral vision. And then this one, just bring the hand up over the head to take that thread and just pull it up and then change direction. And then just both hands out on a level. And now just one up, one down, just a little bit. So as the peripheral vision of one eye, as your attention goes up the peripheral vision of one eye, it would tend to go down the one of the other eye if you learn to split the eyes. And this is a good exercise for that. And then just bring one hand, let's say my left, across to cover my right eye, without getting in the way too much. So my right eye is now closed. And now just bring the right hand in until you're just beginning to see it with the inside peripheral vision of your left eye. And then just move it around a bit. Just want to get a little bit of familiarity with that side of the peripheral vision because it's, the other eye obviously dominates this normally. And then let that hand out, the other hand. And then in with the right hand covering the left eye. And then let the we. It's quite alarming when you see these strange fingers. And then both hands out. And both hands in. So now we're just, you're looking, but you're not looking at anything. So if you focus on something, then obviously your eyes will converge onto that thing. But we want this sense that the eyes are, it's not as though everything is blurred, it's just nothing is in real focus. So you have a whole field of vision and a sense that the two eyes are seeing different things. That's the sort of field of vision we'd like to possess. And it's, if you're sort of walking along in nature, for example, then that's basically what you have. Occasionally you look at something intently, like a tree or a rock, but generally you're just constantly open to the whole field. And the best way to get into that is just to start to become aware of the outside peripheral vision. Because obviously what I see with this peripheral vision, I can't see with this eye at all. So that's one way of splitting them. And then a little bit in the butterfly. Then kneeling. The fetus. Separating the feet and sitting down between them. And then just leaning back a little. If you can, all the way, but if you can't, then hands or elbows. and then up. Ooh. And then lying. And first activating the hamstrings. So left leg, push the heel strongly into the ground. Feel the hamstring tightening. And then let it go completely floppy, completely relaxed. And then push the right heel down. And then release. And so coordinate it with the breathing. So as you breathe in, push down to tense the muscle as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, relax. And then the other one again. Relax. And the right one again. Tightening. And breathing out, relaxing. And the other one. Tighten. And relax. And then just bring the left knee up. And using your hands, just pull it up towards your left shoulder. Keep the other leg stretching downwards. And again, just breathe it. So as you breathe in, sort of push against your hands with the leg. And then as you breathe out, just let that go and you'll be able to pull it up a little bit further. And then carefully let that leg down and bring the other one up. And pull. And then use the breathing. So as you breathe in, push the leg against the hands against the leg. And then as you breathe out, release the leg and the hands will just pull the leg a little bit further up. And again, breathing in and out. In and out. And then let it leg down. And then bring the other leg up again. And now trying to pull this left knee towards your right shoulder. So this is more difficult. So it'll get the buttock and probably the lower back as well. So just be careful. Again, use the breathing, but not violently. And then release and let the leg down. And then the other leg, the right leg, pulling it up. And just pull that right knee towards your left shoulder. And let the leg down. And bring the left knee up again. And now the right hand on the outside of the left knee. And just work it down to your right. So extend your left arm out and look to the left. and then the legs going the other way. And release carefully. And the other leg. And release. And then bring both legs up and pull the knees apart. And then just cycling a little. So make sure the feet are right. So big toes in a little bit, but the little toes out. Then as you go down, the knees always moving apart. So that will give it this roll here. And even though we're symmetrical now, get this feeling that there's this sort of wanting, it's wanting to break into the alternating one, which we'll do in a second. But first, just feel it wanting to alternate, almost like something inside you is getting irritated, that you're locked up like this. And then just let it alternate. Just feel how the body's just so much happier. So as soon as you alternate, you have turning, you have moving from leg to leg, and you have a figure of eight. So the figure of eight links the two sides, but you also have a figure of eight within each side. So the figures of eights proliferate. And then let the stance extend a little bit by stepping out with one of the feet. And then stepping out with the other foot. And then just wind it down. And just bringing the hands onto the hips, the sacroiliacs really. And just let it settle. So the touching hands just helps bring your mind to this part of your back. And you just keep it until it just feels really solid and real. So I want the solidity to come up from the ground, like a Etruscan arch, it comes up the pillars and then it connects with the headstone, the keystone. And then just let the hands slip down your buttocks, down your thighs, and come up the front. So feel this, the effort of bringing the arms up is also pushing you down into the legs. Feel the heels really extending into the ground. So they're your roots. So really your legs are your roots. So just think of the ground coming all the way up to here. So your legs are in the ground, but from your feet, you have all these other roots extending. Feel the strength in the lower back. Required just to carry this enormous canopy of leaves and branches. So the tree is extensive, it extends into space. And then coming off the heels, but bending the knees. So you're sort of shrinking here into the animal. So a sense that you're pulling into your dantian, but the more you pull physically in here, the more your senses and your awareness extends outwards, and you're bristling with spirit. So now you have potential movement, and the movement is everywhere in every cell. And then putting the heels down, but slowly and one at a time. So turn towards one of your legs and then slowly let the heel down. And as it gently presses onto the ground, just feel it spreading and sinking into the ground. Keep the other heel up. And then this heel. And as this heel goes down, the other heel can come up. So effectively, you have the tree on one side of your body, which the side of your body that has the heel down, and the animal on the other side of the body. Yeah, so we want to get the two sides to overlap. So the heel starts coming up almost before the other heel has actually gone quite down. So there's a region where we don't really have either heel on the ground. And then just have both heels up all the time, but still trying to get this figure of eight going. And remember, try and get the figure of eight. So the hand that loops out, try and get the feeling, if not the physical actuality of it reaching behind, coming out here, and then rejoining itself. So that I feel as though I'm contained within these circles, not just my feet, but my waist. And then just let it wind down so everything just gets smaller until both heels are down. And now just moving side to side. Bit of a trampoline, sinking into the leg and just feeling that thrust upwards. And my weight is pouring into the leg, and that fills the leg up, which then extends and takes me back. So you think of two glasses of, two glasses, one's full of water. You tip the water into the other glass. So the experience of the full glass is of water dropping. The experience of the empty glass is of water rising as it rises up the glass. So that's the feeling here. My weight is flowing into the leg, but at the same time, the strength is rising up the leg. And I can get the feeling that that is just continuing in a line which allows me to move along it. Just feeling everything as flows of energy. So I'm feeling my body, but I'm feeling it flowing. So I'm physically, I'm flowing into this leg, but energetically, I'm flowing the other way. And again, just feel this part of the body, the lower back. So I very much want this sense that I'm actually in this system. It's not just something that's happening in the space in front of me. Remember when you were young and you started courting, and you start off walking down the street with your respective partner, holding hands, if you can pluck up the courage. And then it's like an arm around their shoulders, and then an arm around their waist, and just how much more sexy that was. Not just to have your arm there, but to have their arm there as well, because the presence of this arm here just, it almost like rears you up for the kiss, yeah, the next stage. Sinking and something rises up, and at some point I notice it and decide to follow it. So all of this sort of energy work with the legs, it requires us to be able to just remain sunk. So all those years of Tai Chi just grinding down. Because without that, that the pressure can't build up because it's always releasing with you coming up. So even though this energy is flowing up, my body still stays down as it moves into the other leg. Because if I come up too much, I'll break the energy and then I'll just be physical, I'll just be a lump. So I'm sinking down and something comes up. Like a ballet dancer. They have such amazing bodies and such good, proud chests. And they're totally in the middle of the action. There's no sense of it happening in front of them. And now let's try the other leg. So we know from our work that we've got two legs. We've got the one that's mainly empty and the one that's mainly full. So we want the empty leg to be the one that's responsible for moving us, and the full leg to be the one that's responsible for supporting us. The support is relatively passive, so the supporting leg just wants to keep you still. So now this is the empty one, so I bend it. Yeah. So I lift the knee, pull the heel up, but this leg is trying to keep me here. So this has to stretch here, and then slowly I'll get pulled across. Yeah, that's it. And then it looks like the space between your legs is just really alive, like it's breathing. And then get the other leg involved. So, you get this is bending to pull me out of this leg. Now, once this leg has less than half the weight left in it, it's become the active leg effectively. So then just straighten it to force yourself into this leg and then bend it. So the empty leg first straightens to completely empty, and then it bends to start filling. This one straightens and then bends. This one straightens and then bends. I want to feel the straightening of this leg, just really pushing this leg outwards here. Like my knee is out, I'm really on the outside edge. So the straightening leg, just keep a bit of a bow in it. So you do that really by just feeling yourself pushing from the outside edge. You don't want this knee to collapse in. If it straightens completely, then there's a bit of an effort to get it to bend again. So I straighten, but really pushing the outside edge down, and then it will want to bend. So we have the legs of a worker, of a peasant, at least when we're doing Tai Chi. So bow-legged, legs and feet that are grabbing the ground and trying to pull the body down towards it rather than push the body up away from it. It's amazing, when you go to China, because the first time I went, we're in a region where there was a lot of sort of peasants, farming peasants, and they all look like Tai Chi masters because they're all bow-legged with a bit of a pot here, and it just looks like their legs are just pulling them down all the time. And the people from the city just look a lot taller because their legs are straight all the time. But when you see them side by side, they're the same size physically. They're just using their legs to push into their head the people from the city. So to break the connection with the ground so the ground can't suck at them anymore. And thrust, use their strength and their energy to bring all the activity up into their head. Okay. And now just turning with it. So this is obviously difficult because my students find it impossible here. But so, when you pull with the leg, just feel yourself turning towards it. But then there comes a point where the leg that is bending and pulling has to start straightening to try and keep the spine fixed in the middle with you just turning around it. This is what people find difficult because they find it difficult to use their legs with any sort of precision, with any fineness. They're just using their legs to clump around or whatever. So I'm pulling with this leg, and that gets me turning towards the foot. But then this leg then needs to start straightening as this one continues straightening. So I'm bending the legs to pull myself back to the front, but then I have to start straightening both legs rather than just the back one. So it's this front leg that's problematic. So pulling with this foot especially, and then pushing, pulling and pushing, and just feel it coming into the opposite arm. So as this leg is straightening, it's like it's squeezing something into this hand. And the other hand just reaches behind to join with it. So I'm pulling the ground and then, wah. So to get the energy to come up from the ground, I bend the legs. But then to get it to come up into the upper body, I have to do something different. I have to straighten, but without that bringing me up. And then just pause here. And now just imagine someone comes and just takes your hand and leans backwards to sort of pull you forward. They're trying to pull you in that direction, but just with their bit of their body weight, not with their strength. Otherwise, they'll tend to be a bit mean. So they're just leaning. So you really have to angle into that front heel so that their pull can be translated into the ground through your body. And so when you're in the front foot, effectively you have to, there's a sense of leaning back a little bit in order to get that front heel. I mean, physically it may not look like it, but it very much feels like I'm leaning in order to get a line through my body into that front heel. And then it can look as though your weight is actually still in the back foot, but you've got that connection with the front heel. It's why, when you see someone doing Tai Chi, especially young style Tai Chi, our Tai Chi, which doesn't lean forwards, then often it just looks like they never really come into the front foot. Because you think, it's 70% in the front foot, which is only a little bit more than half. So if you get these angles right, you can have a sense that I'm in the front foot, but I'm actually look like I'm still here. Yeah, this is what we want. Ooh. So just feel the action of the legs. The legs are pulling me down, and then the legs, especially the front one. It's the front leg I'm working with because we're not used to that. And then into the lifting hands version, the one where we go into the back foot. So now just turning here. So now using the front leg to drive yourself into the back leg, forcing the back leg to really fight against that and feeling that coming up into the front hand. And then just turning these toes round, the toes of the empty leg, and letting the hand scoop down like it's taking a handful of dirt, and then into the other side. And now just feel the angle leaning forwards a little bit that you need to stop them pushing you backwards. So I scoop at the ground and then I push. That's it, looks great. So just not letting this back knee collapse in. So you can hardly turn. I mean, I'm not even to the corner, let alone this direction. But it feels great. And imagine once you get here, the person comes and just leans on your front hand. So they're leaning into you. So you have to be able to channel that down into the back leg. So you need to lean forwards just a bit. Otherwise, they'll knock you backwards. And just feel that. You can feel the angle that you need. So you can imagine them leaning on you. Yeah, so if your Tai Chi is good, then all the interactions that take place between you and the other will actually drive you deeper into your root, even though the other person is trying their utmost to uproot you. You're actually just channeling their effort down through your body, and that will strengthen your root. Okay. And now let's just try some of this one. It's almost the feeling that your foot never really, or your heel never really goes down. It just gently kisses the ground and then it's up again. So we are animals. We're not trees or plants. So we can simulate a root. We can have like a virtual root. And we'd like it to remain that. We don't want our rootedness to make us slow and lumbering. So my heel goes down, but my weight is in this foot, even though the heel is up. But because this heel has gone down gently, I can get a sense of it probing into the ground rather than just flattening onto the ground. And for me, this is our most amazing exercise because so every time I do it, something is thrown up that I hadn't noticed before. And it's just getting that total movement in the body, like every cell is moving rather than just your body moving. So there's all these little ones full of these worms that are just figurating. And then let's just jog and just feel that sort of sexy lilt from side to side. Okay, now let's do a little bit backwards and forwards. So it's basically the same as doing the front foot here and then the back leg, but I've got a front leg and a back leg now. So pulling yourself forwards and just feeling that filling or the energy from the ground coming up the inside of the leg, then up here, and then looping over and sort of settling in your sacrum. So as you fill the leg, the energy rises up the leg, and a sense that it just settles in the sacrum. And then from there, you can just use this leg to help, and the strength in the back to help throw it into the opposite hand. I just find this bringing the hand up and touching the sacrum so useful. Ooh. And when I get my students in, it just looks great. And then just figure of eighting. Again, the sense that the bottom hand is sneaking behind you, coming out here, and then rejoining it. Of course, you can't do that. So you have to imagine it. Just feel it slipping around the waist. Just imagine it's someone's arm. So as it slips behind your body, it's as though your heart comes up into your mouth. It's what takes your breath away. And then the other foot forwards. So first just backwards and forwards, so drawing the energy, scooping the energy up the leg, and then simply just passing it into the other side of the body so the hand can send it out. And then let it become the figures of eights. So as you come into the foot, that's the figure of eight that's going around the bottom. But when it gets out of phase, just look what's happening. Don't immediately assume you've gone wrong, because all of these figures of eights, remember they're following energy, so there's always a lag. So the energy may already have figured of eight, and your hand's just like completely out of phase with it. Let's just try the tree and the animal again. So first, just hands here. So just feel as soon as the hands touch, you just become aware of this part of your body as a physical reality rather than just an image in your head. So we need images, we need an imagination to proceed, and yet they're always the enemy in a way. So our images are always provisional. And the ultimate image, self-image, that's the one we just try to erase altogether because it's hiding us from what we really are. It's a bit like the quiet mind, empty mind, and no mind. So that moment of touching no mind as your body just leaps into spontaneous action, you just become a different creature, a different person, and really take yourself by surprise. So it's when you're sort of ripped out of your reverie, out of your daydreaming, and just forced to respond. The simple state would be, you're walking down the street thinking to yourself, and all of a sudden someone just stops you and says, and asks for directions. So suddenly, wow, you have to become communicative. So you're now talking to a real person rather than an imaginary one. And then when you come out of that event, you realize, shit, that was so other than anything else in my day. And now just let the hands slip down and rise up. But a sense that they're being pulled up. Ooh. But this real feel, Bruce Lee used to say weight on the underside. It's almost like your flesh is soft and melting. So it's all collecting on the underside of the bone. And then coming off the heels and intensifying. So the elbows drop because it feels that your belly is pulling the elbows towards it. And also it's like the knees are being pulled up here as well. So everything is just shrinking into here. But my hackles, my probes, my antennae are extending much further out than normal. So the tree has a sense of like an egg. You're a smooth container. Here, you're the opposite of smooth. You've got all these spikes sticking out of you. You're completely convex, concave. And then just, ooh, ooh, how gently can I get this? And slowly can I get the foot to descend? And my weight is with the heel that's going down, but my energy is with the heel that's coming up. So effectively, there's two figures of eights going on my weight and one the energy. This is why it gets out of phase. You're never quite sure which one you're with. And then just let it wind down. And then, okay. And now just lifting a leg. So stepping out. So just very careful stepping. So put the big toe down. Then as you slowly pull yourself into the leg by bending it, feel it filling up from the ground. And then once the filling gets up to here, you can safely lift the other leg. My weight is flowing into the leg. The strength in the ground is flowing up the leg. And I want those two flows just to continue on their way. They don't just join and freeze. They're sort of pushing past each other. So that this state of seeming stillness with one foot off the ground is very much a balance of two flows. And to keep that, something in me just has to let go. And it's difficult. Using the leg to pull yourself across. And then the heel goes down and strength comes up. Remember, the strength will come up from the heel generally. The sense of the energy having come up from the front of the foot. Just keeping it relaxed. So the two sides of the sacrum just feeling very different. One side is with the heavy side and the other side of the sacrum is with the light side. So to catch that balance, the equilibrium of the two flows, you need spirit. It's like the intensity of your concentration and intention just keeps the channels open so they can not freeze. So pulling, and then something in, and I just try my best not to close down, not to freeze over, to keep my mind really alert. So this is pure animal. Yeah, so when you've got this dynamic equilibrium, and effectively it's like no mind, it's you're in the zone, you're with flow. So that Hungarian writer, I think he's American, but got a Hungarian name, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He used to write about flow, psychologist, I think he was. Yeah, so the more you try to stay down, the more you try to stay together, the more energy and more spirit you have. This is pure martial energy. You see why Tai Chi was couched as a martial art, a scenario that completely requires fantastic spirit and speed. Okay, let's just try a little bit of that kicking that we did. So this feeling that we want the energy coming up from the ground as we put the weight in the leg to simply continue down the other leg into a kick with no break. So it's just what we've just been doing, but you just let the foot go out. So I pull myself into the foot. I feel this flow coming up my leg, and then I just let it extend down the other leg. Yeah, so it's, it's very simple, but we're just trying to get that continuity, the sense of the energy coming up the filling leg simply continues down the emptying leg and just empties out. It's like I flick something off my foot. So up and I'm just trying to get this side of the body just really loose so that it can be something that just flicks through like energy traveling down the whip. It just goes down the leg. And if you get the arm doing the same thing, then effectively you're feeling what needs to happen in the torso to get some of this energy that's coming into the kick to come up into the hand. So you don't just throw the arm out, or there's something in you has to rear up in order to wriggle it through. So, to get the hand that comes in and up the leg to go around onto the sacrum. I just imagine I'm a rock climber and I've got my bag of chalk at the back here, and I have to dip my hand in it before I make my next grip. Those rock climbers have the best bodies on the planet. And then just turning it into a walk. Let's just walk a little circle. So instead of just kicking out with the foot, just use it as a step. So bring my weight into the leg and then just let the leg just, and it just hits the ground so lightly. So you just don't put your weight in it and then you pull yourself into it. And this is a great test of your stepping, just how clumsy you are. We want a mind that has complete control and mastery over the body. It's obviously not a thinking mind or a worrying mind. It's just a really well-trained mind. It's not concentrating, the way kids would concentrate at school. There's like you're concentrating because it's dangerous. That's the feeling. So it's more like the concentration that a performer would have, like a natural performer. So a natural performer is basically one that creates a better performance with a crowd than when they're on their own. So somehow the presence of the crowd, of an audience, brings them together and enables them to focus and draw out aspects of their energy that is normally unavailable to them. And a lot of great artists they just can't do that. So there's a lot of like classical pianists that see recordings of them, but they never perform because they just can't do it. They get too nervous and then they make mistakes. So John used to say, he says, when you're practicing your form at home, just assume I'm there with a critical eye on you. And you want that not to inhibit you, but to force you to be at your best. Just feel the feet, toes really splaying. It's strange because it's really splaying the toes just helps you get a feeling for the heftiness of the heels. It's just standing and letting gravity wash us clean. So imagine you're in the shower just standing like this, or the way they used to do it in the olden days, like stand under a waterfall with it cascading over their head. It's just that's our reality really, is just sinking. And if you just refuse to let that get you down physically, so it's not actually doing this to me. I'm standing my ground heroically. So physically, I'm not getting too down, but also emotionally, I'm not letting it dishearten me and discourage me. I'm actually fighting. My spirit is engaged in battle. Then you can get that sense of steam rising from you. So the levity, the sense of humor that's bubbling up through your body. And then just bringing it up. Just keep the heels off the ground, if only a tiny bit, and keep the legs bent. Letting it shake, not too much, but there's always this tremble there, of like a tremble of life and sensitivity. And then just letting the heels go down, but ooh, really feel the heel opening so that something can probe into the ground from it. And then this one, ooh. And I just really have to gauge how much weight I can put into the heel, because too much and it will just close down. And then just winding it down. Where you're shrouded, you're hidden, cloaked in energy, but inside you're like a monster ready to leap out.